Welcome to another Plate Stack Chat, the podcast where each week I find some great guests and bring them on for a fun, informal chat. My name is, of course, Jason, and joining me this week are two wonderful people. First, we have a fantastic athlete. You might have seen her on the Palm Beach Breakers or throwing down at Wadapalooza. She is also the owner of Evolution Performance Nutrition. And if you don't like any of the videos I make where I talk about Grid League, well, this is the person to blame, as she's the one that got me into it in the first place. It is the fantastic Kayleigh Walsh.
Hi, guys.
And joining us is another incredibly hardworking woman in the world of CrossFit. You may have heard her commentating on athletes on a live stream, interviewing athletes on Talking Elite Fitness, or trying to herd cats on her own show, Death By. It is the one and only Lauren Kalil.
Oh, I love herding kittens. That's so much fun.
Wow. I've been on that. I've had the pleasure of being on that show.
Yeah, you've been a kitten before.
Yeah, and if people think it's chaotic on the show, the before and after is manic.
That's where the money is.
Yeah. I was really ill when I was on the show. And I remember
really?
Yeah, I didn't know how ill I was at the time, but I just spent the whole time trying not to cough when it wasn't my turn to speak, and then I would try and say something and then sit there for the rest of the time. So I felt like people should have been quiet when other people were speaking, but occasionally, this is the herding bit. They start to interrupt. I could never jump in on any of the riffs because I was just focusing on not coughing. And people that have listened to all the episodes of this up till now will have known that there was about a month where I was just coughing for every episode.
Oh, no.
And it turns out I eventually went to the doctor, obviously, and got told I had a chest infection and I had to have antibiotics. And they were like, you have these, and also some pills for the asthma to try and improve that. And they actually said to me, I think doctors usually don't say, they don't give you too much hope, but this was like, you're going to have these and you are going to feel so much better. And I took them.
What a relief.
And I did not feel any better.
Oh, no.
I finished this whole course.
Lies.
I finished all the things. It kept going. And I went back a few weeks later, still dying. And I was like, I'm not getting any better. And they listening and they're like, oh, ho, you didn't have a chest infection. You had 2 different chest infections.
Oh, no.
And those antibiotics will only have targeted the one. And now you've got to have completely different ones. And I took this second set. And I remember it was like the Friday night I went down to the Bath University here. We were setting up for Strength in Depth Origins. And I had maybe 1 pill left. And I was already like a changed man. I just felt so much better and wonderful. And so now I'm cough free. I'm ready for a rematch.
You still have a great voice, even when you had your cough. So I give you props for that.
Yeah, that's the only thing I bring to the table these days. A great voice.
Great ideas too.
Yeah, it's hard to have a great voice though when you're in the same room as Sean, because he has the voice.
The two of you have arguably the best voices in the space.
We should start a podcast together.
Yes, that would be awesome.
So I usually start by asking, and we've sidestepped that immediately, is whether or not Lauren and Kayleigh, you've met before or had a chance to interact at all.
I don't think so. Not directly. Yeah, not directly, no.
Because I know, you were both at Wadapalooza recently, so I thought, you never know.
We probably ran by each other many times and just did not know.
Yeah, probably. It's like chaos there with how many people are there and how many heats and everything else that goes on all weekend. So yeah, I'm sure there was passing by moments.
Yeah.
So you were competing in the Masters competition, right?
Correct. Yes, I was in Masters 35 to 39.
Yeah, jumping quickly with that qualifier.
That's right.
Yeah, I was in the 35 to
40. I'm a baby Masters is what they call it. Like some people are like, oh, Masters, 35 doesn't really count. Like you're a baby. So.
I think it is the worst Masters group to be in because it's the
hardest.
It's just as hard. They haven't made it any easier for us. They're like, oh, I'm in the same group. And I have and this is my other problem with it, is that I think there are people that, started CrossFit a bit later and they were like, I'm never going to be competitive in the elite individual field, but I'm going to train now and then I will be competitive when I'm a Masters athlete. And I think that's a great idea unless, like me, in the masters category that you're in, you have Scott Panchek, Rich Froning, and people like that, and you're like, well, I'm still never going to be competitive in that division anyway. So
Yeah, it's
what?
crazy
So
how
why
like
try?
it's so crazy like how you see like the people who I like when I first started CrossFit, like, you know, we're in the elite category and still can compete in the like elite category, but are like you're going against them now in like the 35 to 39 bracket. You know, you have like Stacy Tovar and China Cho, and like they're like names that have been around forever. You know, they're names that like inspired me to even like start CrossFit, and I'm like, man, I'm going against them now at 35, 39. They're still like kicking my butt, obviously, and they're still qualifying for, you know, elite, you know, non-masters competitions.
Mhm.
So it's like crazy to see how many people are still in the game from like the original group, you know, that kind of started it all and kind of inspired a lot of the younger ones to get into it, but they're still in their 10 plus years later.
I mean, Sam Briggs is a perfect example. She was
Yeah.
40 and still technically qualified as an elite individual. Like that really shows the longevity of the sport.
It shows the longevity of the sport. It also does show how young the sport is. When you're like, you know, those OGs, the ones from back in the day, from when we began, the ones we look up to as when we were kids, and you're like, and they're how old now? Oh, they're in the 35 to 39. You're like, well, that's still very young. I I always get surprised, which is stupid, but like whenever I find out people are younger than me, I'm always like, they're young, they're younger than me. Like, I think I just locked in years and years. I think it's because I left the country when I was very young, and so you know, like you lock in that age almost. And so I always just assume people are older than me because I'm always like, oh, I was always the young one, so they're probably all older than me. And then you're like, oh no, they're all children, and I'm old. Oh
Now everybody's looking up to you.
yeah. Do you know what it is? I almost fell off my chair interviewing someone. So I used to do like the local podcast for CrossFit Bath as well, where I just
Mhm.
interview the members and the coaches and stuff. And was interviewing one of like the new coaches, and we're just talking about kind of their background in sport and what they did. And they're like, oh yeah, from a very young age, I did this, I did that. And they threw in like the COVID lockdown as sort of a thing very early on. Like, oh, because I did this, and then, and then obviously the lockdown happened, so I couldn't train. I was like, whoa. The lockdown, that was just, that's recent. That's, we were all old then. And they're like, no, you were still young. Okay, great. So
Mm.
that shocked me a little bit. Very good. So we've got to address something now. I said I'd save it for when we're on the podcast. So when you first saw Kayleigh come on, I was upset because she did not come on wearing a big baggy hoodie or something like that, and I knew I'd be intimidated all podcast. What was your first reaction, Lauren? You're allowed to say it because I feel like
Oh, she's jacked. She looks awesome. I want arms like her.
I want arms like her. I think if like people are like, oh, if imagine you could like build, like design the body, and you'll be like, oh, I have the legs of this person and the arms of that person, and people will be like, oh, I'd have like the Rock's chest and the this that and the legs from here, and I'm still gonna take Kayleigh's arms. I don't care.
Yeah, me too.
I have to say they are a good accessory for a lot of things, especially in CrossFit. At least they definitely help there. Sometimes not the greatest for like formal wear because they don't really make clothes for females with larger upper bodies.
I am really curious on your experience with that, because when I was at my like most jack, most lean aesthetics was when I was in my sister's wedding, and when we were going for bridesmaid dress shopping. I mean, it looked ridiculous with me in some of these like really froofy dresses. What is it like when you go out shopping, and like, have you found a style that
oh my
works
god,
for you?
it's very hard. I feel like because like lats also make it weird because
Yep.
like for things that like zip up the side, like they don't make room for like lats. So I'm like I have gotten stuck in like multiple shirts before, and like there was like one time I was like going to work and I was like hurrying really fast, and it was like a button down shirt, and I put it on and I like got stuck and I like couldn't get my arms out of the sleeves, and it was like a hot mess. But yes, like things like trying on like dresses and stuff are crazy because they either like don't fit or I have to go like up a lot of sizes and have them taken in because just the lat problem. But yeah, I feel like, and again, like long sleeve shirts, they don't like if it's not stretchy, like it doesn't work. So I feel like I have to, I mean, I feel like a lot of girls do this for at least like pants and stuff. You have to get something with stretch to try to make it work. But yeah, I would say like short sleeves are kind of the way to go for me. Luckily, I live in Florida, so it's short sleeve weather / like tank top weather all year round, basically. And then or maybe a sweatshirt, but again, then you have to go up in sizes. So at least now like the larger oversized tee works. So that's like the cool thing now. So at least that's cool. But yeah, when it used to be tighter shirts and like stuff that just didn't mesh with with me.
I love the expression "the lap problem." I think that's cool. I'd love to have it. I'd love to have the
cool
lap problem. And okay, it might, and I'm not picking on you. Like that seems weird. It's like, come on the show so we can look at your arm. That wasn't the idea, but I'm so glad that you did, because am I right in remembering, Lauren, that you used to get complaints about your arms when you were like reporting on the the news, like the real media?
When I used to be in local television, I had like dozens of complaints anytime I would wear a sleeveless dress. I was told that I look like I do steroids. It looks like I'm going to eat my co-anchor. Like I look manly, all of the most ridiculous things, to the point where my news director brought me in, of course, his office and basically told me that I had to start covering my arms so that I would be more relatable to the viewers. I was like, how ridiculous is this? Like the most controversial thing on the news is my arms? Like, come on, people, get a grip.
Yeah, I imagine there's more controversial stuff being reported. Like that's
Yes!
worrying that
Like
that's the
every
focus.
headline.
Obviously, I have I've not walked in your shoes, like either of you, to kind of have this thing, but I do find it interesting because I think like the CrossFit bubble, you kind of sit in that bubble, and I find for me, or for quite often for like a lot of the guys as well, it'll be that maybe we don't think we're that fit. You're like in the bubble and you're like looking at these incredible athletes and you're like, oh, I'm not that fit. Oh, I'm really trying I'm training as hard as I can, but I'm just not getting the results maybe I want. And then you have to like pop the bubble and like look outside and be like, well, hold on, just look at the majority of people. You're way fitter than all of them. You're actually healthy, kind of thing. But I also think it's so normal now for us that we expect women, like, when you go to a CrossFit box and you will see all different shapes and sizes, and it doesn't matter. And it's always like about what they can do. Like, we think about that more, like how you can perform, or like what you're, working towards and trying to do. And even that's performance related, right? So even, other people that are coming in, starting CrossFit new, they've got maybe some fitness goals. It's still like, oh, well done. You're squatting more than before, or you're deadlifting more, or you've got your first pull up. That's amazing. But then we live in the world. So I don't know, like, Kayleigh, do you get a lot of issues then? Like, you've got the kind of the fitness world you're in, but then I guess it's just normal life. Do people feel free to just kind of comment and jump in on this? And
Yeah, it's like, so I kind of learned like two things. So like in CrossFit, like when I'm in my gym, like, people will still say like, oh, you're like super jacked and stuff like that. But like, it's not as like abnormal, obviously, to see like muscular women or women working out.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I learned even from an early time from when I like began CrossFit that there's girls that are like super tiny and don't look jacked and like can lift a mountain. And then, so it's very hard to judge people like what they look like in the gym, especially at CrossFit. Cause I've seen guys who are super jacked and can't lift anything, and I've seen like little people outlift them. So it's crazy. You never know when you walk into a CrossFit gym like what people are able to do. But outside the CrossFit gym space, that's definitely where it becomes more of like, I mean, I feel like it's moved in the last couple of years into a direction where you see girls working out more and getting more muscular and being in the gym and using free weights. I think when I first started, like I'm 36 now, so when I first started like my whole gym going, I guess, age, like when I was a teenager and stuff, I just like sat on the treadmill and like would do the Stairmaster because it was very intimidating to do free weights, and I didn't really see a lot of girls doing those things. Whereas now I think when I go to the regular gym, I do see girls do that. So I think that's really cool. And they're like, trying to get arms and doing curls and doing all kinds of cool things, which I think really empowers younger and younger groups to join and feel like it's acceptable. But there's still a lot of people, especially like the older generations, I feel like, that will like make comments about my body. If I'm out in public and they'll be like, oh my God, you're so jacked. They instantly think I'm like a bodybuilder always. Like that's what they always go to. And then like the number one thing I always get is like, oh, how much do you bench press? Like I'll be at dinner. I'll be at dinner with my parents. Like I was at Outback the other night for my dad's birthday because he loves Outback. And like not even our server, like another server stopped and he was like, oh, I don't want to be rude, but like how much do you bench press? And I'm like, I don't even bench press that much because like it's I mean I should probably bench press more, but like I'm like I don't like have that stat like on the top of my head kind of thing. But it's crazy. That's what they always think. I'm a bodybuilder, or they ask how much I bench press, or if I can arm wrestle them, which I don't know where the arm wrestle comes from because I've never arm wrestled anyone ever in my life. But those are the top 3 comments that I get in the real world outside of CrossFit.
The arm wrestling is funny. I've gotten the how much do you bench and how many push-ups can you do. But I think with the mindset, it's so interesting because I look at you and other women who have muscles and I recognize that that's almost like a badge of honor. I know that, yeah, I think aesthetically it looks good, but more than that, it tells me that you're a hard worker. It is not easy to build muscle like that. That has taken hours and years of work and nutrition, but then you like step outside the gym and you get comments like that. And I think it's moving in a better direction, but there's still that disconnect of like the aesthetic versus what has gone into it and why.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people also will like immediately think outside of like CrossFit, like, oh, you're a bodybuilder, you take steroids or something like that. That like a lot of people be like, oh, are you on something? And I'm like, no, I mean, like, I've just been working out since I was like 6. So it's like 30 years of working out.
So there's so many points I want to jump in on now. But I'm really tempted to ask Lauren how old she is because I think
32.
she's still a baby. She's not even a master's yet.
I turned 32 in December. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
See, like years.
See, and don't take this the wrong way, Lauren.
No, not at all.
Do not take this the wrong way. But this is exactly what I mean when I'm like, every time I find out people are younger than me, it shocks me. And it's more, maybe it's just because I haven't accomplished as much. And I'm just like, but look at everything Lauren's done. Like, she's done so much. There's no way you can do all of that before you're, well, I'm 30. I'm 36 as well, actually. 36, almost 37. So
it's also interesting, Jason, because when I look at people from Europe and not from America, they age so much better. I will never forget sitting in a taxi with BKG and looking at his skin and his face, like very close. Like we were sitting very close, and I'm like, we're the same age. And then I pop up my phone camera and I look at myself and I go, oh God, I gotta move to Iceland or something. Like, how can we be the same age?
It's because they stay refrigerated all the time. It's so cold there. Kayleigh, you've got to be careful. You've picked hot places to live because you need to let the guns out. But like, if you want to stay silky smooth like BKG, you gotta be in the cold. Unfortunately,
land of ice and fire.
So that was one thing. I also wonder if, like, I hate the bench press question because I'm so bad at bench press. I would say comparatively as well to like other people at the box, because I think a lot of them came into CrossFit from being more kind of traditional gym bro, bench and bicep curls, whereas I didn't. So I've built everything up just doing CrossFit. So I've got, especially for my height and weight, very good squat, very good deadlift, things like that. But don't make me bench press. I just, it's always a disaster. But I do wonder if, like, especially if it's like the server, the other side, kind of not even your server, but somebody else who's curious, like, is that in his mind, like, is he genuinely curious? Is it like a compliment and he actually thinks, I know how hard you're working. Like, give me some, you're going to feel good when you tell me how much you bench press, because it's probably a lot, and it's a nice little ego boost, and you're not volunteering the information. I'm asking, And unfortunately, he needs to ask, like, I don't know how heavy a weighted pull up you can do or something like that. Say, look at the lats.
that would be
Ask a better
'cause, like,
question.
exactly. Yeah, bench press is not my go-to lift. It would not be my my one I would brag about.
And my final question on this, and then we can drop the subject forever and we'll talk about anything else you want, is I'm curious why, if you look at like the fashion industry and just clothing brands and things like in general, there has been this massive shift over the last few years into like kind of athleisure wear, right? So it is, everyone's wearing leggings all the time, and it's all kind of like, and that is any size, right? Like that's just the look that now a lot of people wear all the time. And also, as you said, you see a lot more girls in the gym doing, bodybuilding type things as well. So I'm just curious that no one has jumped on the kind of, we're going to make, more formal attire. We're going to make kind of stuff for women that have this figure, because or even within the CrossFit space, you think of all the little companies that kind of cropped up within CrossFit, and was like, well, we've got all these people here and they all care about how they eat, so we're going to make a type of protein bar because we know CrossFitters, they're the perfect target demographic for this. Like I'm the number of clothing companies that have started selling t-shirts, I'm like, but it's another t-shirt. And we've got lots of t-shirts. Why no one's kind of I'm going to go for formal attire and for all the kind of different parties that you'll be going to. I know my audience. Here you are.
I'm surprised they haven't done it for at least like the masters realm, because like so many of the masters people have full-time jobs and are like wearing more regular clothes to go to work. So there's definitely like really jacked 35-year-old females who might have to go into an office, or lawyers, or something like that. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't kind of like created some kind of office or some kind of like not even formal, but like semi-formal wear or something, like work wear that you could wear, like, because obviously I know like a lot of dress pants now they make that are stretchy, but like not so much shirts. So maybe one day that'll be a thing.
Do you guys know the brand Kayleigh? It used to be really big in CrossFit, but honestly, I
heard of it like way long ago. I feel like 2014 or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at their website now because I actually do have a dress that I would actually anchor the news in with theirs, because it was like a stretchy material, but it was like still like you could go to a cocktail hour in it. But I'm looking at their website now and I don't see any category for dresses, so maybe it didn't sell well. Maybe I was the only person they sold to.
Maybe it was too soon.
Yeah, they should bring it back.
Yeah, they should. I do find it, these are the kind of things that keep me up at night. These thoughts swinging around my head. Or, why is no one's done that? And then a real entrepreneur would be like, well, I'll do that, but that's not me. So I'll just put the idea out there, and someone else can run with that, or tell me why I'm wrong and why that's not a good plan. Lauren, I've got to ask while you're here as well, because this will be coming out like a week and a day from when we're recording, a week and 2 days or something. But I had to message you. So Kayleigh messaged me to say, like, are we still on for tomorrow? And I was like, well, I'm still on for tomorrow. But Lauren's in an airport and she seems to be trapped.
I was.
So you're back? You're at home?
So before we started recording, before Kayleigh got here, I was shoving my mouth with a protein bar because I had literally walked into my front door 3 minutes before we started this.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, I got to eat something. So the travel, there were a delay in my first flight because of a mechanical problem that then forced me to miss my connection. But since I live in a town that has such a small airport, all of the flights to get back to Syracuse were sold out until Thursday. Oh. So then I had to figure out, okay, what's the next closest airport? And when is the soonest that they could get me there? So I went to Albany, which is like 2.5 hours from my house. Luckily, my parents' house is right in the middle of Albany to Syracuse. So my poor mom came out at like midnight last night to pick me up at the airport. I stayed at my parents' house last night. And then this morning, my mom drove me back to my house without my bag because I don't know where it is.
I mean, you travel a lot though for your
I do. So this is bound to happen.
for work. I mean, are you finding it tough with all the traveling? Like, because I mean, we think about the athletes and travel, and like I was talking with Sahakaya because obviously, like she's we were talking about like off-season competitions, and for her, it was more about the impact that has on her training of like having to pick competitions to go to and then travel there, and especially as for her, the semi-final is another travel, like it's another long trip, and then the games is another long trip, and it's like the jet lag, so I think we think about athletes and how much they're traveling, but CrossFit media is quite a small team that get used at a lot of different things. So it seems that people are always traveling. I just wonder how you guys are coping with all of that.
Yeah, it's one of
Especially
those
you're
things.
everywhere.
I don't like to complain about it because it provides me so many opportunities. If I wasn't traveling this much, it would mean that I wasn't getting as much success as I am. So I'm very grateful for all of these opportunities. But when you just think about like the toll that all of the traveling, the layovers, the delays, the time zones, the getting home in the middle of the night, waking up at the crack of dawn to get to your flights, there's a lot that goes in it. And I work in health and fitness. That's really what this is, whether it's CrossFit, tactical games, high rocks, what have you. And the irony of it is finding time to work out on the road and making sure that you're making really good nutrition decisions while you're on the road is super hard. Like, it's not easy to figure out, okay, where's the affiliate that I can drop into versus where I need to be? Or can I do something in the hotel gym that at least gets my blood pumping and maybe a quick sweat? And is there a grocery store or a Whole Foods or a Chipotle or something somewhat clean close by where I can get food? And it's a lot. A lot goes into it.
Somewhat clean.
Well, because if you go to Chipotle, you want to get the chips too.
Exactly.
So it's like the bowl was clean, but the chips I didn't need.
Yeah. Well, because that was sort of where I was also thinking about like taking it is that idea that you can travel and you can cover the stuff, and and Sahir's problem was like it's the impact it has on her training, right? Because of the jet lag or because of just day of travel here, day of travel back, 2 days of competition. That's 4 days that I've now not trained, and it's exactly that. Like it's hard for you. You don't want to stop feeling like almost hypocritical of, oh, I'm in the space, I'm talking about the sport, I'm talking about the methodology, I'm talking about how wonderful and how great CrossFit is. I'm not doing it because I don't have time. But I mean, I'd book this one in with you guys thinking, oh, I'll finish at like 7:30 and I can get to the 8 o'clock class, the last class of the day, and I'll get my workout in after full day of work, now recording, and then heading up there. And then I agreed to go on somebody else's podcast. So I was like, oh, I guess I'm not training now. But I find it's that like trying to strike that balance of, I could spend every evening editing videos and stuff like that, but then I wouldn't go and train. And I think if I'm not doing CrossFit, then I don't really feel like talking about it because I'm not enjoying it. I find as much as I enjoy the games and things like that, and like watching it and the incredible athletes, I still enjoy doing it myself more than watching it. I don't know.
Yeah, and it helps you, at least for me, being involved in the sport, being involved in an affiliate, going to class has helped me be better as a professional in the space. There's certain things that you learn just being in it. That is the best place to be an expert or whatever you want to call us when we're talking to athletes, like interviewing people like Kayleigh. If I can relate and know that this workout is super grippy, I can tee up a question to ask about that. And it just makes the storytelling better.
Interesting. Yeah. expert.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me,
I know I did air quotes.
yeah, for me, I kind of like see that like so I don't make as much content. I like make my own content. But for me, the way that you guys kind of like I guess would relate to it is like I wasn't coaching for a long time. Like I used to coach for a while, then I like went into more training mode and life and work and stuff. But now for me, I really feel like getting back into coaching more recently at my gym has kind of helped do that because like I feel more connected to the people, so I can help them. And sometimes they would always just come up and ask me questions, but now as I like coach the class, I'm able to kind of give them tidbits of like how I would break down a workout or how I would approach a workout or something like what sets I would do, or like, hey, like go off of your 5K pace time or something like that. And I think that helps a lot for me to connect also back to the fundamentals, which also helps me then focus on like how I can break down my own workouts when I'm like doing my workout afterwards. So I like that bridging the gap of like being a part of it while also training it.
So you've mentioned about like the content you create. So obviously, yours is most like your training and things like that. So I'm always curious to kind of how much does that impact your training in general? Thinking about, I've also got to think like I want to go in, I want to get this done. The thing I love about like doing CrossFit is that I know I can just sign up for the class, and that means if I get like tonight, if I'd got there at 8 o'clock, at 9 o'clock I'm done. I've done my warm up, my workout, the cool down, stretch, and and I would say I'm out the door, and then I'm spending 20 minutes chatting. But if it wasn't for the 20 minutes chatting, I'd be out the door and I'd be back home. Plus, I live a 5-minute walk from the box, so within an hour and 10 minutes, if I really want to, I can do the whole thing. But I guess you're having to like think, well, I really want to do this workout and I'd love to just get in and get it done. I also do need to kind of create something because you've got sponsors and things like that in place that you need to kind of make sure that you're creating content and people see you training, because then they know that it's worth sponsoring you for Waterpalooza or whatever it may be. Does that impact your training maybe to a degree, or it's like second nature now and I just stick a camera there and it'll be fine?
A lot of times I can like, because I actually like a lot of the products I use, I like genuinely use in my training. So it's something I like really believe in. So it's easy for me to tie that into my training. So if it's like tape, right? Like I really only use one type of tape. So it's easy for me to like, while I'm warming up, to like film something really quickly because I'm going to use that for the day. So it doesn't take like that much time out of my schedule to like film me putting tape on my thumbs or something like that. And the same thing with like the products I use for like either recovery or post workout. Those things I'm already using, so it might take me a little bit of time to like make sure that I'm having like the product image in my video, to like tee that up. But it's something that I would already be using and already be doing, so it doesn't take that much time because I again, like for me, there's always a lot of people that will reach out and be like, do you want to try this, do you want to try this, do you want to work with us? But for me, if it's not something that I'm going to use day in and day out and that I can actually like, because again, I'm in a gym and people will ask me that my opinion on things. If it's not something I'm going to take, I'm usually not going to partner with them, just because for me, it just feels fake.
Whoa.
So, oh yeah, I don't know what happened there. That was fun.
That was awesome.
So yeah, for me, it's like if I don't have like a product that I can genuinely sell a member or like tell them my own personal experience with it, then I'm not going to partner with that brand. So for me, it's kind of just kind of melt it into my training.
Nice.
The fireworks went off because she's so authentic and we're here for that.
Yeah. So
I don't know how that happened.
Anyone that's just listening to the audio of this, Kayleigh just moved her arms in some way and then suddenly her whole screen lit up with fireworks. So that was incredible. And secondly, man, any of your sponsors that hear this must love you now. They're like, oh, that was perfect. That was just what we wanted. Like, she really cares about the product. She uses it every day. Wonderful. My other question on that then is, because like saying like just simply rubber tape. Do you because you create quite a lot of content for your stuff anyway, do you kind of have mental images in your mind of like, oh, I know I'm going to be doing this training, so like it would be really cool before I do that there's a clip of me doing this, or maybe you do something and then you like after the fact think, oh, I could record this and then kind of insert it in the front? And because I tell you why, because I've been going to a few events recently and I've completely changed the way I'm looking at the world. and it's freaking me out. So like every time something's happening, I'm like having a conversation with someone, I'm like, oh, that's a really good conversation. Now I need to go and make sure I catch them doing the workout, because I need to have something, because I want to throw back to this conversation because I actually thought this was really good. And it's just changing the way and then I find myself in other areas of my life, like almost breaking it down like scene by scene, thinking, oh, you could record this here and you could move that there. Does that happen to you at all, or am I mad?
Sometimes I do that with like my warm-ups or something. So like I'll like start warming something up and then I'll be like, oh, that might be good for a video. So let me like move my camera over here real quick, like take a little snippet while I'm warming up and then come back to, getting ready for my workout. But usually it's like snippets from training, or I'll like do it like right before or right after my workout, because I feel like that's the easiest way to kind of fit them in.
What about you, Lauren? You're also a prolific content creator. Do you just send it all off to an editor and say, make something good out of this? Or are you doing it all
I
yourself?
am the editor. It's funny because I don't know about you, Kayleigh, but some of my best ideas always come at the wrong times. And I mean that in the sense that I'll be laying in bed trying to go to sleep, and then all of a sudden an idea comes and I'm like, oh, I really don't want to grab my phone because I don't want to look at the light because I'm trying to sleep. But if I don't write this down immediately, I'm afraid I'm going to forget. And I don't know. It's like you go to the gym, and if I am shooting content or whatever it is, or sponsored content, unless I have a game plan beforehand, like I'm not very good at just doing something on the fly that turns out quality, if that makes sense.
That might be my problem then. There's content turning out. We're just not sure if it's quality yet. But that's no.
Sometimes though, you shoot something and afterwards you're like, I have no idea how this turned out great. I had no plan going into this.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I like to think it over and let the little nuggets create one big nugget.
Write that down. Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. I like the big nuggets.
Well, because I was at an event at the weekend and I was, filming some stuff and getting some stuff. And then my wife messaged me, like, oh, how's it going? And I was like, well, to be honest, I don't know. Until I get home and I can sit down and go like troll for everything I've got, I'm never really sure. But it is interesting because I think we follow things in a very different way though, Lauren, because I think like when you're at events and stuff, you are obviously there kind of reporting on, and especially the ones you go to that it is going to be, well, who's winning, and we're following that. And I found myself at some events recently where I couldn't even tell you who's winning because that wasn't the people that were like engaging me and giving me something that I thought was fun and enjoyable. And so I was rather like sticking with certain athletes that were all doing very fine, but I was like, this is more kind of, I don't know, more interesting story, like just from them. There was one, sometimes you just catch magic and you're just like, this was perfect.
It's the best.
There was Tom Wright is his name. He's a young, I think he's 19-year-old. Like he did a 122 kilo snatch the other day on the thing as well, which really angered me. But I know him, and I was interviewing him before an event, and I was saying, it was like a dumbbell snatch and rope climb thing, and he had to do 60 dumbbell snatches. He was like, 60 dumbbell snatches, they're going to be fast, unbroken. And I was like, okay, so are they going to be the best dumbbell snatches like of the event? And he's like, well, I don't know, it's synchro, so I've got it, it depends a bit on my partner. Then I watched them go out, and on the first rep, his partner dropped the dumbbell, and it started like bouncing, kind of on the floor, and then they had to recover them and pick them. And I was like, this is, you've just told me they're going to be the best snatches. Oh, it depends on your partner. Your partner dropped it on rep 1. That's so then I ran up to him afterwards and have a little follow-up interview. Like, so those dumbbell snatches. Do you want to throw your partner under the bus now, or we'll wait till later?
I mean, those are always really fun because just by watching, you'll see where the organic story comes from, especially if it's not like a head-to-head battle race and the point spread is really close. It's like telling some of those other stories are sometimes the best, especially because you get that human behind the athlete. And that deeper meaning of the story. And everybody has such a unique story in the space that, I mean, the storytelling is endless.
I mean, of course, if anyone wants to get me to the games, I will tell you who won. Don't worry, I'll pay attention to who I'm meant to follow. But I mean, it's Rogue that's just announced that they're going to be in Scotland. I'm like, oh, that's I don't
Closer
know.
for you.
Yeah, it almost hurts more. 'Cause I'm like,
Oh.
it's so close, but maybe it's for another year at least still out of reach. But we'll see. Talking of close point spread, I haven't mentioned. I've resisted all pod, but Kayleigh, you've been doing Grid League for a few years now, right?
Yeah, like 5, I think.
Yeah.
5, yeah. Time flies.
I'm never sure if that's a number or now many, or where we're
Yeah.
going to rank that. But I think that was one of like the interesting thing. I enjoy watching it. It's getting bigger, it's growing, which is great. But one of the things that does keep it interesting from like the storytelling point is the scoring system that does just keep it really close. So when you're watching it, there's always kind of, oh, they could come back. One or two good workouts and they could get it back. Whereas obviously with like some CrossFit events and the scoring system, quite often you'll be like, well, these are your top 3 and these guys are chasing, and maybe there could be an upset and someone could sneak in, but quite often, particularly towards the end, you're like, yeah, this is wrapped up, which can in itself be an interesting story. Like, some of the performances that like Tia and Matt put in were, incredible, dominating. But I don't know, there's something about that kind of 1-2 points that just kind of keeps you a little bit on the edge of your seat. But
yeah, like grid comes down to a lot of times like the very last match, and the fact too that you can throw like bonus flags too to change the points that you can get, is pretty. It keeps it very interesting, keeps it very close, keeps you watching to the very last second. So, and it's so fast paced that in a matter of seconds, like one team could mess up a movement and the other team could catch up. So you never really know going into it, especially if you're down to like 2 points into that last race of who's going to win. I believe even the championship this year came down to the very last race. So like it's crazy. It can kind of go back and forth. And if you win that last race, then you win the whole season. So it could come down literally to a matter of like milliseconds.
now I've not followed any of the tactical game stuff, so I have no idea how scoring works on that.
There's only so many sports you can follow. It's actually like Z scoring is the way they do it. Yeah.
Tyler Watkins will be happy to hear that.
He would be so happy.
He was on last week's episode. If I'd known before.
Yeah, we could have teamed that up together.
So we're going to have to wrap up very soon because I try to promise my guests that I won't keep them all evening. But I mean, I could, but I won't. The season has almost kicked off as of recording this, and as of release, we'll have already had one open workout, and we'll be fast approaching the second. First of all, has anyone got big plans for the? Kayleigh, are you like going for the? Have you got goals? Are you signed up for the open first of all?
I'm not officially signed up for the open. I know, right? Like I'm one of those ones that I like to sign up when I put my score in. I know, so
that's
it's like
fine,
that.
That's fine. I'll accept that.
I get it.
So I'm doing it Friday. So I will be signed up officially Friday. So 2 days from now, but obviously in the past when this airs.
Yeah. So when this is released, you're signed up. Very good. Everybody, quickly pause. Go check the leaderboard. Make sure she's signed up.
She's on there.
Right. Make sure my score was like verified and up there.
Yeah.
So yes, I will be signed up for the open. My goal this year, Masters wise, is to try to make it to semifinals and obviously push for the games too, with like the change in the amount of people that come in. So in the past, the last couple of years, it's only been 10 people that have gone to the games. So that was kind of a little bit more out of the realm of reality for me. But with 40, it does open up more spots and more possibilities. So that is my goal this year, would be to focus on Masters individual. In past years, I've done team or more the elite individual side, but mostly team was my focus in the past. So this year's kind of being an old lady, a junior old lady, and then focusing on the individual side.
Yeah, going up against those people that you used to idolize when you were just a small little girl and you were watching these elite athletes. Very nice. Lauren, I mean, imagine you've got lots planned for the open with coverage and stuff like that. as well as signing up. Have you signed up?
Oh yeah, I'm the nerd. I sign up like day one. I'm like, oh, the open is here. Let me get my name on the board.
See, I'm like every other year. I'm like Kayleigh. I sign up just before. I always know I'm gonna sign. I know I'm gonna sign up. I'll hold on to those $20 for as long as I can. But this year, because I'm doing this like open tour thing. I was like, I better
Oh
make sure I've
yeah, that
signed up
looks awesome.
better make sure I've signed up in advance, because otherwise I'm going to look pretty stupid if people are trying to check it out. So my final question before we go is, what was the open workout that we just had last week?
Oh man.
I feel like everybody I've spoken with thinks that there's going to be burpees in week one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the obvious choice. But I think we're going to go to some like gritty, light barbell cycling. And oh God, what would a second movement be?
Maybe it's just one
Like,
movement.
maybe it's
no movement.
And maybe single unders. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like something with like the jump rope in the first one, because I feel like a lot of people have accessible, like, or it's accessible to like most people to be able to do some kind of jump rope, whether it be single unders, and then maybe it's a progression of like single, double, crossover singles, crossover doubles, or something like that, to kind of, do a ladder sense. But then some other movement in it could be maybe like a variation, like it used to be like 21.1, where it was like wall walks and double unders, but maybe it's like a progression of like handstand push-ups and single unders and strict handstand push-ups, double unders, and something kind of like skill-wise that goes up in a ladder format.
Man,
but yeah, I feel like double unders are coming out like the first one
soon. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, to be honest, if there's strict handstand push-ups and double unders, sign me up for the open, because that's what I want to hear.
I'm right there with you, Jason. Let's go.
They're movements that I've got, and they're movements that I've got that other people that are probably fitter than me, for just whatever reason, they just don't have them. There's some of those ones that are like, I just can't string together double unders. You're like, ha, good. Now I can get ahead. You can lift 7 times what I can on a barbell, but you just can't jump over a rope. So that's fine. Anyway, it'll be interesting, because this will have come out, and actually I just realized this releases on a Friday. So 2 workouts will have been announced. And I also, like you, Kelly, will be doing it on Friday morning. So I will, I'm cheating. I'm doing it Friday morning at my local box before I then travel to visit other places. So
that's fair.
There's no pressure on me having to perform well in another environment. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been very nice just to catch up. I haven't chatted to you for a while, Lauren, and Kayleigh. I don't think we've ever chatted like this.
No, I think only
a lot of messages.
Only Instagram. Yeah, Instagram.
So very nice. I hope to get you both back on in the future. Maybe we'll mix you up with some other guests. That would be fun, especially when Kayleigh qualifies for the Masters Games. We'll definitely get you on there. If people want to follow your journey, Kayleigh, and see what you're doing this season, where's the best place to find you?
Instagram. Instagram's the best way to kind of follow what I'm doing, either whatever competitions I'm doing, or training, or nutrition, or whatever.
Yeah, and if they've only been listening to this, if someone is only listening to this and the discussion about your arms did not send them to Instagram to find out who you are and have a look, then we've been doing our job all wrong. Lauren, of the many places people can go to find you, where do you want them to go?
So I post the most, I would say, on Instagram. So that's just my name, Lauren Kalil. And then the week after the open, I'll actually be launching my own website. It's just going to be laurenkalil.com. I'm going to have merch. I'm going to have a blog. And there's some TBD new content that I'm going to be putting out there. So stay tuned.
Exciting.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Little teaser.
I might put that in the links anyway, and then
when it goes live,
it will go live, and then click it. So
perfect.
But as always, in the show notes, you can find links to the different Instagrams, YouTubes, and things of the guests that come on. So thank you both for making a little bit of time available to chat with me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you to anybody that's watching or listening, and well, I never normally say it, but I hope everybody's open is going well, because the season has begun. Wow, exciting.
Woo!
And yeah, I mean, who knew? What a curveball that second announcement was. Who knew? Hey.
That one looks hard.
Yeah. Oh, that's a pretty safe thing to say, Lauren. That one looks hard. Yeah, I think everyone will agree with that.
They're all hard.
All right. Thank you, everybody.